Hey guys, Jake Carlson here, host of the Modern Leadership Podcast. Are you ready to focus on amplifying your leadership superpowers? Let's go! Good morning, my friends and fellow elite achievers. Welcome to Modern Leadership, the podcast where each week we sit down with authors, entrepreneurs, and leaders to explore their journey, diving into the ups, their downs, and ultimately the lessons they learned along the way. Our goal, of course, is to show that everything is figure-outable, and I couldn't be more excited about this episode. I am right here with you. Pen out, paper out, ready to take copious notes. Today, I am as much a learner as I am interviewer, and maybe even more so. Let me introduce our guest expert, Arthur Samuel Joseph. Arthur is the founder and chairman of the Vocal Awareness Institute. He is widely recognized as one of the world's foremost communication strategists and authorities on the human voice. His voice and leadership training program, called Vocal Awareness, teaches communication mastery through a disciplined regimen of specific techniques designed to cultivate an embodied and enhanced leadership presence as well as personal presence. He's coached such greats as Angelina Jolie, Sean Connery, Tony Robbins, Stephen Covey, Jerry Rice, Kareem Abdul Jabbar, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and many, many more, including myself. I am a participant in Arthur's training program. Arthur, it's so great to have you with us today. How are you?
My goodness, I'm glad I'm sitting down, man. That was a lot of cool stuff.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm a little bit nervous here, Arthur. It's like test day. I feel like the teacher's looking over my shoulder. So I can't wait to jump in and kind of talk about this vocal awareness concept and idea. Before we do, give us a little background. How did you get your start and that led to working with so many great people?
Well, this is my 54th year since I founded Vocal Awareness. But my journey began in art when I was 4, and I knew at 4 that music was to be my life. At 12, singing was the direction that music passion would take me. And one of God's gifts to me, aside from poverty and a really deep, dark tunnel to climb out of, which I didn't know was a gift at the time, was my first voice teacher, Mrs. Julia Kinsel, to whom my first book is dedicated. And in the middle of my lessons, she was about my age now. I'm 73. She was probably even a bit older. And I was 15. In the middle of my lessons, I clamp my hands manically to my ears and say, "Stop! No, I don't want to do it like that. I hear it this way." And she allowed this absurd behavior because she knew something about me that I didn't yet know. When I hear a voice, I hear who you are. It's what I call perfect pitch. It's an imprint. And her lack of dogmatism allowed me to create new form. Vocal awareness is a paradigm shift, and many elements are trademarked. It's all copyrighted because this is not just communication mastery. It is mastery through communication. It's life work. And I have a master's in voice. I'm a classical singer by training, but the work just kept morphing and morphing. And it was fully concretized by the time I was about 20 or 22. And it's certainly deepened and built since then. But it's so interesting. The blessing and the curse of vocal awareness, Jake, is that it's all things to all people. And if you look at the breadth and depth of my client list and the fact that there's everything there from political candidates and U.S. senator to theatrical luminaries. I've got 23 students in the Pro Football Hall of Fame alone in sports and the arts. But beyond that, I've had the privilege of teaching a Holocaust survivor to help her find her voice post the Holocaust. I've taught deaf people to sing. I'm just so privileged to get to do this work.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, Arthur. And I want to, for those listening and also for myself, to kind of understand this progression, this life journey that you've been on. Sure can.
I'm being crude and rude, audience, but I got Jake's permission ahead of time.
It's true.
Jake, are you standing or sitting?
I'm standing.
Okay, so from 3 inches below your navel, with your hand actually doing this, slowly pull a thread from 3 inches below your navel, right up through the top of your crown chakra, right up through the middle of your head, Don't rush it, and fully extend your arm, and then let your arm down. And the first thing that you did was inhale. Am I correct?
Correct.
And you notice your space is subtly quieter right now.
Yes.
And now I'm going to ask you, Jake, to allow. It'll take 5 to 7 seconds, a slow, silent, do not take, but allow a slow, silent, conscious, loving breath. And at the apex of your inhale, say again what you began to say a moment ago. You're in stature, and allow this slow, loving breath in 5, deeper, 3, 2, and begin.
And Arthur, I'm going to have to ask you to remind me what we were talking about, because you got me so transfixed in this process, this study of what we're doing. It reminds me a little bit of meditation.
This is called vocal awareness, because awareness is the first step. I have 7 rituals, and when you listen back to this podcast, you're going to notice that your pitch was just lower. Your space was quieter. Your delivery was slower. You recall that?
Yeah, I do. And that's part of what I was saying in the beginning, is that I feel like, having taken some of your classes, I feel like the teacher looking over my shoulder, this is definitely something that I personally want to get better at. This is something I want my voice to communicate the passion and the love that I have for podcasting. But I want to switch gears and ask you, why should I care about this? Because we've got a number of people on the episode that are listening right now, and they're going through this experience, and now they're asking themselves, okay, so what? Jake is now standing a little bit taller. He's hopefully speaking a little bit slower, more clearly, maybe with a little bit more confidence in his voice. But help us understand as leaders why this is important.
Say maybe with a little more don't say maybe, with a little more confidence in his voice, and underline the word confidence and see a period, and underline the word voice and see a period at the end of the thought.
With a little more confidence in his voice.
Now I'm going to help you breathe in 3, slower and deeper, 2, and the same sentence.
With a little more confidence in his voice.
So your listeners just heard a more authentic delivery. It's not that Jake slowed down, you did. It's not that your pitch was deeper, it was, but we heard a more authentic Jake. And so if I say to you, Jake, it's so nice being on your show today. I'm so thrilled to be with you. Versus, Jake, it's really nice to be on your show today. I'm so thrilled to be with you. The first one is bogus, but we don't know why. We don't realize it's just too high and too fast when I talk like this. All we get is that man's less trustworthy. He's just selling me an empty pig in a poke.
So, Arthur, let me ask you about that, because I see 100% what you're saying, and I agree with you. And I think that the reason that I speak faster, which obviously makes my pitch go higher, is because, as we go through this non-scripted interview, I'm coming up with questions and I'm trying to play off of what you're saying. And oftentimes I don't know when you're going to end. As a guest on the podcast, you may go on for 3 minutes. You may go on for 5 minutes. You may say 2 words.
Jake, I go on for air, actually. I just go on for hours.
Hours.
And so let me interrupt you, because I know what you're saying and it's perfectly valid. In communication, Jake, speed is only speed. It is never how fast, but only how effective. I said to you a moment ago that I don't just teach communication mastery. I teach mastery through communication. So why does our audience care whether you speak fast or slow, high or low? Who cares? Because you're so enthusiastic. You're so passionate. That's genuine. But you have one gear, and that is warp. And I want to help you understand that we have choice. For the metaphor of this word, Jake, is that every single thing in life revolves only around 2 things: to choose to do something or to choose not to. But we don't know in communication, because speech is habit, that we actually have a choice in how we speak. And so what I'm introducing here, Jake, is something I call our persona statement. The root of the word persona is an Etruscan root word, which means through the sound. One's identity is largely conveyed through the sound of a voice. And we live in what I call the fingers and thumbs generation. We stream data. We have challenges looking one another in the eye even these days. And so we are losing the art of public discourse. And when I teach that voice is power, it doesn't just mean big, bombastic voice. It means integral, authentic voice.
And a word that comes to my mind, Arthur, is this intentional. Like, as I was thinking through the steps that you were taking me, you were talking about, think about the word. Okay, take a line, draw it up from 3 inches below your navel so you're standing taller. Slow down a little bit and insert periods at different places, mental periods that would cause me to automatically stop in the conversation that I'm having. And by doing that, it makes me more intentional about what I'm saying, how I'm communicating, and how the words are coming out to the listener.
Beautifully put. And the upshot of all of this is that you are not just in charge any longer of the message, but the messenger. You're discovering that it's not merely what we say, it's how we say it. How do we cut through the white noise? How do we get noticed? Sociologists, Jake, have sold us an empty bill of goods for decades that says, for generations actually, the greatest fear in society is public speaking. You've heard that program.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's a misnomer completely. However, the greatest fear in society are two fears: fear of abandonment and ownership of our power. Claiming me and not being afraid of what you think of me while I'm being who I am.
Which I think can be said in another word as rejection, right? We fear rejection or being rejected by those that we're speaking to.
And so we're taught we need to get approval to be who we are. From who? And then we're actually taught in presentation classes, speak to the last row of the house. All that makes me do is raise my pitch. Or we're taught how to bond with our audience. What a bunch of balderdash. What if I'm trying to create a relationship with you from the stage? What if somebody else has another POV? I can't serve you both. So this work is very hubristic. I want us to be who we are. I don't know one artist, one elite athlete who in the moment of performance or competition hopes the audience or their teammates like. Do they approve? Yes, the human being wants to be loved and stroked. But how much work it takes to be ourselves while others watch is what the discovery is right now. If I say to you, we get all these mixed messages. Oh, don't act like that. What will people think? You shouldn't say that. You sound arrogant. Jake, if I say, vocal awareness, Jake, is extraordinary work. It can help you change your life in moments. Now, that's stupid and arrogant. But if I say in response, vocal awareness, Jake, is extraordinary work. It can help you change your life in moments. That's not arrogant. It's my truth. So this work is designed to help us own who we are without approbation. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And the thought that's coming to my mind right now, Arthur, is the fact that, podcasting is exploding. YouTube channels are exploding. We have Instagram stories. We have Facebook stories. We're now communicating not one-to-one, face-to-face like we used to, but we are communicating vocally more than we went through a period where it was all, blogging and texting and posting. But now there seems to be more of this vocal usage. And so I'm thinking to myself, A, does this allow me to stand out from my competitors, from my peers? Or B, is this a changing mindset or paradigm as more and more people get into this, more and more people are authentic? We see all sorts of different points of views, all sorts of different backgrounds, and all sorts of different ways of approaching communication.
A brilliant insight. Wonderful. So notice what I'm going to do right now, Jake. Right now as I speak with you, and I tell you that this is my life's work, and that when you give me your voice, you give me who you are. And that creates a sacrosanct relationship. And as I'm speaking with you right now, from 1,500 miles or so away from me in Los Angeles and you in Arizona, you notice the energy in your space has just changed, hasn't it?
It absolutely has.
And I'm doing that through the way I'm speaking with you. And so you look at a piece of music, and it doesn't say moderato, one moderate tempo throughout, one same dynamic for 45 minutes of the Beethoven symphony. It changes every measure. And, as you will speak about in a moment, this offering that I bring to your audience called the Visual Voice Pro. I'm a singer. I look at music and it tells me everything to do. But we're on this podcast. It's extemporaneous. We have no written words. A PowerPoint presentation, a keynote, you write things out, but they're just words on a page. But in visceral language, which is the Visual Voice Pro, I teach us, and watch what I'm doing now in the way I see my words. I teach us how to make voice visual. I literally, extemporaneous or prepared, see every single thing I say on the virtual computer screen in my mind's eye. It's a form of this work called conscious awareness. I teach us how to listen intra and interpersonally simultaneously. And you can see how something's just changed in your space there, and how you're actually beginning to see what I'm saying because I'm calling it to your attention.
Well, and those who listen to this podcast on a weekly basis can tell a real difference in the energy of this podcast. And what it is because you have created a certain cadence, a certain rhythm with this conversation, and I've been consciously trying to be a part of that. You and I have gotten more into sync than we would have been had I recorded some of my words and then sent them over to you, and you recorded your words, and we tried to merge them together. We've created this cadence together, almost like we're creating music and we're both different instruments, and we've kind of started out playing different rhythms, different volumes, different everything, and now we've started to bring this together. And so tell me, as a leader, if I bring this back to my office, how can I use this to benefit my office, my company, and to grow our bottom line?
Brilliant. In my latest book, Vocal Leadership, 7 Minutes a Day to Communication Mastery, I have several appendices at the back of the book. And one of the appendices is a section on leadership. And I created an acrostic on leadership. An acrostic is where each letter of the word represents a meaning of that word. The L stands for leading by example. Back when I used to train Tony Robbins, he would refer to my 7 rituals as pattern interrupts. He would say to create a new pattern, you have to exaggerate behavior to break an old one. And I would disagree with a basic thesis all the time. I would say, Tony, we cannot empower people. That's arrogant. But we can help them empower themselves. So the E stands for empowerment, empowering, ennobling, one of my favorite words. Because when we hold the size of our space, we ennoble others in helping them discover how to hold the size of theirs. So we take this work back to our office. The bottom line in all negotiation and all business is what's in it for me. So now in my office, I'm beginning to create relationship in it. When I teach sales teams, I teach us how not to sell. I teach us that we're educators. We have something you need. You may not know it, so you have to be educated.
And everybody's in sales. So whether they consider themselves a direct salesperson, we're all in sales. We talk about it sometimes as leaders as influence, right? It's the ability to get your message across and get those that follow you, those that are working with you, to buy into it and to feel empowered to go out and carry out the task.
Yes. And so we take this back to the office. And now you get that I actually care through the way I communicate, through my eye contact with you, through the pitch and pace of my voice. So I become more trustworthy. So then you're going to want to work harder, ... It cascades.
You just talked about this book that you have, and the entire framework of the book is this idea of leadership and how this vocal awareness plays into being a leader and taking these ideas back to your office, leading your team. You talk about what's in it for me, what's in it as a leader for you is more buy-in from your team, more bottom line revenue, and more commitment to those that you talk about or from those you talk to, work with, and so on.
Also, I'm so honored that there's a foreword in this book by the Commissioner of the National Football League, Roger Goodell, one of my longtime students in Different. And I say that because he's one of the most integral people I know. I use that word, integrity, integration, have the same root source. So we must make that environment where people spend more time in their lives than even sleep an integral place to be, a place that it's safe for me to show up. And so with, Roger's name above the title, it means so much because that's how I know him. And he takes this work really joyfully seriously.
Yeah, and we started this episode of the podcast. As I read through your bio, we talked about these names that everybody listening recognizes. Angelina Jolie and Sean Connery and Schwarzenegger and all these people that you've worked with. But I also mentioned one person that's working with you, and that is I'm a participant in your training program. And so I want to take a few minutes and just talk about what you do and how you're empowering more and more leaders to go out and communicate in this vocal awareness pattern.
My vision is to change the world through voice. I loved it at the top of this podcast. What was the A word? It wasn't achievement. It was achieving that you spoke about in your opening paragraph.
Yeah, elite achievers.
Yes. And so in this vocal leadership book, you'll see that I've created I don't like the word potential. We all have potential. I could care less. I'm into achievement. So I created a number of years ago the Human Achievement Movement. One of my favorite quotes is from the early 20th century psychologist William James, Henry's brother, where he said, "The great use of a life is to spend it for something that outlasts it." We're here to make a difference. And this is my legacy time. I unfortunately have probably less time left on the back end than I've spent on the front end. So I'm enlisting people into my certification course so that I can really train people to carry this work on. I want to inspire people, not motivate. Inspirare, to breathe into you, something that compels you to want to be and do better. I have a wonderful client, one of the elite basketball players of all time, a fabulous young man named Dwayne Wade, and who he's recognizing that he's not only a champion on the court, but a champion in life because of his great works. Now he's learning how to communicate that. It's wonderful because he did things that few people could do because of the degree of work that he put into his game. He's putting the same level of attention into his ability to embody the man he is off the court. So I would invite your audience to think about themselves. I teach empowerment through voice, Jake, as you know, that this isn't just wear a pink shirt if you're blonde and take your hands out of your pockets and stand up straight. This is claiming who we are and learning how to embody it. Because the seventh of the seven rituals is 3 words, not 2 words. Be myself. Third word's a capital S. It doesn't say present. It says be.
Such a light bulb moment for me, even just taking that last sentence that you gave us of be myself, being 3 words, not 2 words, has instantly anchored that in my mind. To think about this is not just about how I present, what I wear, or how I stand, or even the words that I choose to use. But more importantly than that, it's taking it to the next level of being Jake, being who I am authentically myself, and making sure that I communicate that because I have the passion. I have the love. I have the desire to take people to the next level. What I need is for them to follow me. I need to be an influencer.
I have a client who's an enormously successful venture capitalist in Silicon Valley. And one of the reasons he's working with me, this young man is brilliant. He's passionate. He's committed to social causes. He's working with me because I'm helping him become not just when he's on Squawk Box and all these things and traveling the globe, not to merely be perceived as a VC, but to be perceived as the visionary that he is. And that's a fundamentally different communication style.
And it's an entirely different legacy.
Yep.
Like you talk about Dwayne Wade. I mean, he can have a legacy as a basketball player, but what you're talking about is taking these people, and not just people that have star power because we recognize their names, but every individual that participates in this program with you to the next level, helping them be more of who they are. So before we let you go, Arthur, tell us about this program And I know that I've got some links to share with the audience, and I'll put them on the show notes and everything where they can get access to this program. But let them know what they're going to get.
I'm going to be teaching you visually right in front of you, so it's quite an intimate experience. And the framework that I use to teach you visceral language is a portion of the great running back for the Dallas Cowboys, Emmitt Smith, the all-time leading rusher in the NFL, the Hall of Fame speech that I wrote with him. That if you look at it online or on YouTube or anywhere, you won't recognize, but you'll now know because I'm telling you, that 22 or 28 minute speech was fully memorized. He didn't even have a 4x6, no prompter. Even my visceral language annotation was memorized. And his persona statement written at the top of the presentation, as top of his speech, was charismatic intensity. That's what he wanted to embody in this performance, in his legacy moment. So that's the framework for my teaching you visceral language, teaching you about our conscious loving breath, stature, etc. And it's a game changer. It's my life's work.
And I can tell, Arthur, that you have put 54 years, a life of making this vocal awareness just absolutely a passion that you have, and you're having an impact. I can tell just in the time that we've spent together that I am a better communicator. I am learning. I am starting my first steps on this path to mastering communication through communication mastery. And I'm so excited to be a part of this, to be sharing this with my audience, to be sharing this with the listeners of the podcast. And before we let you go, is there any last bit of advice that you have for our listeners?
Listen again to what I said, the two greatest fears: abandonment, claiming our power. Please do not be afraid to be who you are. Practice this work on your mirror, on your video camera, on your audio camera, on your audio recorder. Don't just go show up. Practice before that keynote, before that PowerPoint, before that job interview. Again, we don't realize how much work it takes to be ourselves while others watch.
Terrific last bit of advice. Arthur, I think this episode is one of my favorites, and I believe that this is one that we need to re-listen to because I think, like an onion, there are so many layers that we can peel back and learn from. I can't thank you enough for coming on the episode this week and being our modern leadership guest expert.
It's my privilege, man. You did a superb job. Thank you.
Whoa, my friends, what did you think of that episode? Very different from any of the 150 previous episodes that we've interviewed different guests, a different energy and a different focus. And he's correct. Before we started recording, he asked me, he said, Jake, can I interrupt you while you're talking and start to make some points about the way that you're speaking? I said, absolutely. You're the teacher. I'm the student. I'm in your class. I'm learning how to do this myself. And so the energy was very different because I, like you, had my pen and paper out and I'm learning this idea of vocal awareness. And I love to share this with you. And so you can go to jakeacarlson.com/AJ offer. Or Arthur Joseph Offer, AJ Offer, and get access to his training course, which is absolutely amazing. I'm enrolled in it, and I'm having a blast learning how to communicate authentically, and also how to do some of these tips and tricks and ways to really communicate in a way that people listen. Hopefully you can hear it through this episode, and hopefully you'll hear it on many more episodes moving forward. Until next week, I want to wish you the very best of days, an even better life, and remember, everything is figure-outable. Thanks for listening to the Modern Leadership Podcast. You can find me on Facebook at Speaker Jake, on Twitter at Jake A. Carlson, and of course the website, jakeacarlson.com. See you there.